How in the hell did we get here with John Zink is brought to you by IT Avalon. Visit our sponsor at itavalon.com. Now, here's John Zink.
Hey everybody, welcome to the How in the Hell Did We Get Here podcast. I'm your host, John Zink, and today I'm joined by none other than Mr. Ben Davis. He is the Executive Vice President of IT at Cambria. Did I pronounce it right? Is it Cambria?
You absolutely did, John. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have a Minnesotan here with me. As a lot of people know, I lived in Minnesota for about 12 years and moved to the West Coast from there, and I absolutely love Minnesota. And got a lot of good friends back there. And I've heard you've had kind of a dry year so far and kind of a warm year so far. What's it doing back in Minnesota now?
Yep, it's today we're at 15 degrees, which is 25 degrees higher than it was when I drove to work on Monday morning. And as a lifelong Minnesotan, it's been a bit of a unique winter. I'm an ice fisherman, and usually we're already out on the ice fishing, and we haven't done much of that yet.
You might get kind of wet and kind of dead.
Yes, exactly.
So you live in New Prague, Minnesota, and you were born in Redwood Falls. So kind of a small town rural guy, right?
Small town rural guy, lived in small town rural Minnesota my whole life. When I talk to people around the world, they say you do kind of have that funny accent. So definitely a part of how I grew up was small town rural. And I'm sitting in a 1 million square foot factory today in a small town rural area in Minnesota.
Tell us a little bit about Cambria.
Absolutely. We make the finest quartz surface in the world. We bring over 200 designs to market. The product is natural stone, so it's made with natural quartz, a little bit of pigment, a little bit of binding, and it becomes a beautiful surface that people rely on in their kitchen, in their bathroom, as tile or wall cladding. So many different applications we can supply to the market, and we're very strong in the US and Canada with many partners that we go to market with.
Yeah, I've seen your product actually many times before and had it in my house before, or different houses that I've had before. So when I saw that we were talking today, I looked it up and like, oh, I know that product. So glad to have you here. You're married to Lori for 25 years.
Yeah, we just celebrated number 25 a few months ago back in November.
Awesome. And then you've got a 25-year-old named Brianna.
Yeah, and she's going to be getting married this November.
Holy cow. So let me ask you real quick. We like to have fun here. Was it a shotgun wedding?
No shotgun. Lori's and mine was, so we've been through that. No,
I'm not talking about Brianna's. I'm talking about yours.
Ours was, yes. You notice the timing, 25 and 25. Brianna was 5 months old at our wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then she's getting married here coming up, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And then you got a 20-year-old named Brock.
Yep, and he's studying automotive technology and pitching up at Ridgewater College in Wilmer, Minnesota.
Awesome. And then 17-year-old still at home, Troy.
That's correct. Was at his basketball game last night. So
that's fun. So you guys are going to be empty nesters soon.
We are. We have to decide what we're going to do in our future. It'll be really interesting. We like to travel. We like to do hobbies. So we'll see what happens next.
Are you looking forward to it? Are you nervous about it? How's the feeling about that?
I'd say a little bit of both. We're really looking forward to it, but we're nervous about what the future holds, as it is in every case, right?
Well, I'm 51 with a 5-year-old at home, so I started late. It's my only child, and all of our friends, like you, are going to the next stage of their life, and my wife Carissa and I are just getting started.
Wow, I admire you. You got to have a lot of energy.
Well, luckily I have a little bit of money to have a nanny too.
That helps.
So give us a quick background about your current role.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tell us what you do on a day-to-day, and tell us about your EVP of IT role at Cambria.
Absolutely. So I'm a business person first, right? I've always enjoyed technology since I studied it in college and decided that that's what I wanted to do with my career. but I'm a business person and a business executive first. So my role is really to be that trusted pair of hands to the rest of the business executives to describe to them how we can use technology, improve process and data visibility to help grow and scale our company in ways that we haven't been able to before. So that's really my mission and the team of our IT department's mission when we come here every day to do our job.
So you get to be the go-between technology and the business folks to tell them, listen, this is why we need to do it. This is what we need to do. Almost from like Office Space, the guy that's like, what the hell do you do here?
Absolutely.
I'm a people person.
That's right. That's right. And being that people person is more and more important in the IT role. It used to be the IT department was kind of the nerd herd in the corner or down in the basement that was making the technology happen. And now we're much more engaged and much more on the front line with the people that are making things happen in our company, whether it's making or selling our product. We're very focused on what we can do to support them to make their jobs more fun and more productive.
Awesome. We'll talk way more about business here in a little bit and about technology, but I got a really important question for you. Being born and raised in Minnesota, how in the hell are you a Seahawks fan? How'd that happen?
Well, my dad took me to my dad's was a Minnesota Vikings season ticket holder since 1971. He took me to the game when I was 5, so 1976. Bought me a program, said took me to the page where all the helmets were and said pick a favorite team. And he thought for sure I'd pick the Vikings, and I pointed to the Seahawks helmet, and I've been a fan ever since.
Wow. So I'm a huge Vikings fan. One of my buddies, Tim Welsh, back there, and he lives in Richfield,
Yeah,
took me to my first game when I lived there, and it was Randy Moss's rookie season.
yeah,
And I was hooked and
that
been
was a good
hooked
time
ever
to go.
since. So my
Yeah,
last game that I went to back there right before my son Johnny was born 6 years ago was when Diggs caught that pass against the Saints, the
yes, I was
Minneapolis
at that
Miracle.
game. That was a
Oh
heck of
my
a game.
God. I saw grown men crying.
Yep.
I mean, it was like, I don't know that a Super Bowl would be more exciting than that game was.
Correct. Yeah, that was a really exciting game. And it was funny, 35 seconds left in the game. Everybody's ready to leave. They were upset. And I remember somebody said to me, no, no, hang on. Let's just see what happens and see how miserable this is going to be. And then the miracle happened.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then if you remember outside, they were getting ready for the Super Bowl. Everything was purple, and there was a blizzard going on, so
Mm-hmm.
the snow was purple, and it was just magical the
Yeah,
whole night. And
it
then
sure
my
was.
buddy Tim, they're season ticket holders for the Timberwolves as well.
Mm.
And then we went to the Timberwolves game. It was like sitting in a mausoleum after
Yeah,
leaving that game.
I'm sure.
So, small town guy from the Midwest. What did your parents do for a living when you were growing up?
Yeah. My dad owned his own insurance agency, ran it successfully for 38 years and sold it back in the mid 2000s. And my mother was a homemaker and really the ruler of the roost and made sure we had everything in line at home.
Awesome. So, did you have siblings?
Yep. My sister's 7 years younger than me. So we always got along. We never fought because we were so far apart in age.
So then, growing up small town like I did, I grew up in a town of about 1,000 people in Northwest Illinois. Got up in the morning, out with the sun, came home when the sun went down. Pretty much. Now I see my kid on the iPad. Don't go outside too much. He does a little bit, but it's like what a different world it was back then for us than it is today. I
Yep.
mean, just that. How do you see it with your kids growing up over the last few years?
With our kids growing up, we always kept them very active in activities that allowed them to be outside. And as an outdoorsman, I got my kids, even my daughter, involved in certain outdoor hobbies, so they would spend time outside. Now that doesn't mean they're not hooked on Xbox and their phone; they are, but we do our best to make time and space for that. I think it's really helped them socially and with health and athletics and things like that.
So, what do you do for fun growing up in rural Minnesota? You already talked about ice fishing a little bit. What,
Yeah,
what kind of
we
other activities did you do?
ice fish, we hunted, we played a lot of sports. I was a three-sport athlete. Um, played played a lot of cards with my friends when we were young. That was a lot of fun.
Euchre?
Uh, We played euchre and pfeffer. Pfeffer is actually a variation of euchre from southern Minnesota. It's a very unique game. And actually, around these communities here, they have pfeffer tournaments on the weekends.
That's so cool. I can't find anybody in the West Coast that plays euchre. I used to play
Yeah,
euchre all the time.
yeah, it's a fun game.
So, what kind of student were you?
Well, it's interesting. When I was in high school, school came very easy to me because I have a pretty good memory. So I breezed through grade school and high school pretty easily. When I got to college, I had to learn how to study because I had never studied before. And college was a lot more difficult for me than was high school and grade school because I had to take the time to really learn and comprehend and study the material in order to be successful.
Now, I saw you went to St. Cloud State.
Yep.
So, being a musician, I played in St. Cloud quite a bit at a place called the Red Carpet
Yes.
back in the day. You spent some time up there in the school days?
I did. The Red Carpet has 4 tiers, and usually on Friday and Saturday night they had a couple of different bands on different floors of the venue. So it was a lot of fun to go there. I actually bounced in St. Cloud at one of the bars in St. Cloud.
That's funny. You might have been bouncing when I was playing up there.
You never know.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. So, did you play sports in college as well, or just in high school?
Just in high school.
Okay. And you what? Football?
I played football and golf. I played baseball and basketball growing up, and then when I got to be after sophomore year, there was girls and you needed money to take girls out. So I started working in the winter instead of playing basketball. And I switched from baseball to golf because I figured if I'm going to be a business person, I've got to be, respectable on the golf course. So I took up that sport.
A lot of great golf up in Minnesota.
There's a lot of, I think we have more golf courses per capita than any state.
Oh, it's just such a great place to go. Spring, summer, and fall. I mean, I just absolutely love that area for great golf.
Yep.
So, what were your favorite subjects going through high school and college?
I would say my favorite subjects through high school and college were math and history. I mean, history, the classic adage, you have to understand history to make sure that you don't repeat the wrong things in history. And math, I just thought solving problems was really, really interesting. And it led me to computer science and programming and those types of logical based disciplines to evolve my career with.
That's one of the things that I see going on in the world today. It's just like one of the things you said there is one of the things I say all the time, both to employees, to my kid. It's like, if you don't study and remember the things that happened in the past, they're bound to repeat themselves.
Right.
And I see a lot of the things going on is like, tearing down statues and doing some of the things they're doing around the country. I'm just like, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's just like that. It might be bad. It might be a bad part of history, but it's history.
Yep. We have to remember.
Yeah, exactly. So from those sports that you played, I love playing team sports. I was never that good at it. I'm a big guy, so 6'3", 300 pounds. I'm pretty much the same size I was graduating high school. So football coach saw me coming and said, yeah, here we go. Until I've strapped on the helmet and shoulder pads, and he saw that I didn't have any killer instinct. I was absolutely no good, and I stood on this sideline the whole time, but I was a good teammate. Team sports were great. What parts of what you do today did you learn things from team sports, golf, things like that? Do you take into what you do today as far as a leader?
Absolutely. I would say when I played football, our coach, Frank Fredlin, when I was in high school, was really good, and our assistants were really good at putting people in a position of success and understanding where they could contribute the most and not asking them to do things that they couldn't do, and putting each person in a position of success so they could complement the team in the right way. I liken it to the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick, right? A lot of no-name people on those teams that won 6 Super Bowls, but he knew how to put people in a position of success and just play their role and do their job alongside the other player who was doing a different job but was good at it and made that team hum and made that team successful. I like to translate that into what I'm doing with our IT team here at Cambria to make sure that I'm putting those people in a position of success. I'm not asking them to do something that they're not good at. So they feel good about what they're doing and they can really stretch their legs when it comes to their talents. And it's contributing in the highest way and most successful way to the overall good.
And finding what they're good at and taking advantage of what they're really good at. It's like plugging those people into different points where you need them within your organization, and then maybe finding out that somebody's better at this than they are at what you originally hired them for, and kind of transitioning them or pivoting them, is so important. I do that all the time with my company. It's so important to be that coach and being on your toes as a coach as well, to make sure that you're seeing what people are doing and pivoting them into different roles to be good for the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about direct communication too, because it's hard sometimes. Sometimes people don't like doing what they're good at over and over and over again. And you've got to convince them that, hey, you excel here and you're trying to do this, and maybe you don't excel as well there. And if you want to achieve greater success, you're going to want to stick with what you're really good at. Let's find out how to do that part even better.
So you talked about it a few minutes ago, bouncing at the red carpet. What are some of the other jobs that you did growing up before you got into the career you're in now?
Absolutely. My first job, I worked in a chicken barn. And my dad told me, you got nowhere to go but up from here in what you're doing in those chicken barns to make sure that they're clean and the chickens are producing eggs and the dead birds are going away and all those kinds of ishy things that I don't want to share too many details about. Another really important job for me was prior to my career was working in construction. I did industrial roofing. Industrial roofing was a really tough job. Physically tough, socially tough, because I was a college student and some of the guys I worked with were ex-cons. And in fact, there were a few times where we had to go to the jail on Monday morning to pick up people to work on our crew. And I had to prove that I could fit in with those folks and prove my ability to deliver in that setting to earn their respect, which is very different than, coming to an IT department and proving to a leader there that you're going to earn their respect. So I think all of my experiences, whether it was in the bar, in the barn, or in a construction setting, allowed me the ability to relate to people and identify how I could be part of the team and assist with the mission and earn people's respect.
So true. I mean, I wrote a book a couple years ago, and what you just talked about there, I've got a chapter in there called The Chameleon. And you almost have to be a chameleon in different aspects of your life, either as a manager, as a worker. You have to be smart about how you can fit in with people and how you can best work with them, figure out the ways to fit in as an equal, as a manager, just to be that chameleon that can work alongside, manage, do all those things that will make the whole thing successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was something that was expected of me. I watched my parents, my grandparents, who did a very good job of exemplifying. There isn't anybody you're too good to talk to or engage with or work alongside, or any job that you're too good for. And that was a really great lesson that I learned from, where I came from, is to, you got to be humble and you got to be willing to work with anybody and prove yourself. It's really important.
Oh, we all know those people that, hold their nose up in the air and are too good to do things. And, not in my world.
Right.
It's like, if you think you're that way, then there's the door. Because I'll do any job at this company today, So if you feel a different way, or you're too good to do something, that you're not the right fit for this company.
Correct.
Man, that's great. So you're a big fan of Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, got to see him at the Viking Stadium here. I think it was last summer. Really, really good. I mean, it seems like he can sing anything. You heard him before the last Super Bowl. That was one of the best national anthem renditions that I think I ever heard. And then I saw him on a clip the other night that he was singing the song from Dirty Dancing, and he was singing the female lead's part of the song, and it sounded almost better than she did. So I just think he's a really talented singer.
His voice is absolutely incredible. His songwriting is incredible. He was a songwriter before he came out and started being a solo act.
Yep.
So I was a big fan of the '90s grunge stuff, and when the lead singer of Soundgarden, Chris Cornell, died, he was at the Chris Cornell tribute down in Los Angeles. I'm like, what the hell's Chris Stapleton doing? And he came out and he sang a Soundgarden song and just killed it. Mm-hmm. And we know how high Chris Cornell's voice was. I mean, he was just amazing. Just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. And Cornell's another one like that who had I'm a fan of his too. Really great range and could sing just about anything as well.
Yeah, it was unbelievable what he did. Another person who came out at that Chris Cornell tribute was Miley Cyrus. And we're all like, huh? What is she doing? And then she just won over the crowd within about 2 songs. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing to see talented people. But Chris Stapleton, I mean, just like he could sing the phone book and I'd listen to it.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's go back to college. It sounds like maybe right around college time or right before that, you had the thought to get into technology. How'd you get into technology, and what was kind of the catalyst to move you in that direction?
Yep. I went to college to become an accountant, and I started going through the accounting classes, and I was finding as the accounting classes got more difficult, my grades were suffering. And this was right before Y2K. And one of the professors said to me, why don't you go into the business computer information systems field? There's plenty of jobs out there right now. And you have the perspective of the business because you've been studying marketing management and accounting. So this will give you a leg up and really a business minded perspective on the technology field. So that's what I pursued.
That's awesome. So you had a mentor kind of push you in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Just that I did a podcast a while back with Josh Kelly, who's a country singer, entertainer. And we talked about the different things that what he goes, the different angels that came into his life to put him in the position he's in today. And he goes, if I take time and go back and look at every one of those angels that kind of helped me along the way, he goes, it's absolutely mind-boggling to think of how I ended up here today. And that's what we talk about in this podcast, is how in the hell did we get here? If you go back and you look at every little thing that had to happen in both of our lives for us to be sitting here talking today, boom.
Very amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Dr. Yoshimoto, his name is Dr. Gary Yoshimoto. He was the mentor, and he was an angel from the respect of giving me that advice and steering me in the right direction. But it wasn't, ground shattering advice. It was probably pretty common sense, but I needed that angel or that interaction or that person with that perspective to educate me on where to go and to give me the confidence to make the change. I had the same thing with our football coach I mentioned before in high school.
And what was the football coach's name?
Frank Fredlin. He just passed away here this last year. 90 years, lived a great long life. Did really great things for Minnesota football. He was actually, I think at one time tied for the most state football appearances of any coach in the state. So he was really really successful. But he always coached us on or remind us of really simple things that made a difference in life. Things like, hey, tell your mom she looks nice in the morning before you leave for school. Or, hey, stand up straight, be confident, smile. Those are just simple things. But having people like that who are highly influential to you as your life progresses are so important to get those reminders, because it's so easy in the day-to-day and the fast pace of life to forget those things.
God, it just reminds me so much. So my high school football coach's name was Ed Knurlberger, which is a great football coach name.
Yeah.
So Ed was just hard-nosed. He'd grab you by the face mask. What the hell you do? But he also was I was always into music. I'm always very kind of artsy. When it came to music, that was always my passion. And he saw from an early time, like I said, when I put on the pads, I was just no good. I wasn't that good at it. I always had my drumsticks with me. I sang in the choir at church. Him and his wife, Marge, went to our church. I was sitting in the steps going down to the locker room one day before we were going to a game, and I was sitting there with I had my Walkman back in the Walkman days, and I had my drumsticks, and I was sitting there practicing something. And he came and he pulled my headset off, and he goes, "You know, I've never seen somebody so good at music and so bad at football." And then he put it back on and he walked away. And I remember I said, "That dude gets me."
Yep.
And it was amazing because he was at every one of my musical performances. Him and his wife Marge were at every one of them. So supportive of every kid in that community, whether you were good on his team or not. They cared about us as people.
Yep. And gave everybody confidence in what they did.
Exactly. And I'll never forget it. That was 40 some years ago.
Yep.
And I remember it like it was yesterday. And it gave me confidence that this adult who was important in my life cared enough to know who the hell I was.
Yep. Another feeling.
Yep. So you've had multiple roles over the years.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about some of the great ones here in a little bit and some of the great things you've done. Which role did you like least and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were times in my career where I was either in a rush to make a change without really being thoughtful about what I wanted, or I was acquired, and it took me a little while to figure out that I just didn't fit in culturally. So I've been acquired 3 times in my career. So and any time that you get acquired, the company culture changes, and you have to make a decision. I mean, you want to keep your job and you want to be successful, but you got to make a decision of whether or not you fit in with the new culture that comes in with the acquired company. And I think with the career experiences that I liked least were those where I just was clashing with the company culture and I had to move on.
So because I've got some friends that have gone through acquisitions lately. What's advice that you can give somebody who's going through that same thing that you had gone through in the past? What's some advice that you can pass on to people that might be in that position right now? Is it to make your mind up quicker? Is it to hold on? Is it to try to fit in? What kind of advice can you give to those people that are going through that right now?
I think you have to evaluate the culture quickly. I think you have to be direct about your um, asking questions about what the culture's like early on, so you can evaluate that quickly, and then you can match up that culture to who you are and what your goals are and what you want to achieve, and make sure that they align. I mean, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. There were 2 other times I was acquired that it went really well and I liked it, and I had to adapt some, but there was good alignment between what I wanted and what the company was all about.
Okay, that's great advice. So when you were growing up, rural Minnesota, running around, hunting, fishing, having a good time, did you ever see yourself in a leadership role in technology back then?
I saw myself as a leader. I've always wanted to be a leader. I didn't know that it would be technology. I thought it would be some sort of business, but I didn't know that it would be technology until I got halfway through college.
So when you're on the football team, were you a captain?
No, I was not. I
How,
was
how,
I was more of a leader in things like student council
okay.
or class officer, or just in the classroom leading groups, or in church or after church education leading things, that those kinds of things.
Okay. So talk about technology here for a little bit. How do you balance, because it's a big thing right now, how do you balance between new technologies and maintaining legacy systems? How do you balance
Yeah.
those two things where you're at right now?
It's what we do is we highlight our technical debt. In the IT department, we have a real awareness of technical debt and a despise for it because it slows us down and we want to move quickly. What we have to do is expose that technical debt in the terms of what it means for our other departments so they can align with us to retire it. And we've actually been pretty successful at doing it. And it's not to threaten them, but to say, hey, look, if we stay on this, our operating costs to keep it running are this, and your opportunities to change are that. So, from a cost perspective, we can see where we have opportunities to retire our technical debt and move to something new. And most importantly, when I talk back about being a business leader who understands technology, influencing the business to say, hey, change is an opportunity for you. If we move to new technology, you're going to get to employ more of your critical thinking skills than something that's older and requires you to push a lot of buttons or do manual steps. And this is where we want to get you to. Don't you want to do that too? And I think when you present it that way, most people, though we're all reluctant to change, are more apt to take on that challenge.
So it's just making them understand, or trying to make them understand, that this is a good thing. This is why we need to do it, getting them on board.
Yeah, and making it theirs. That's what's really important. A lot of the success we've had in our manufacturing setting at Cambria with adopting new technology was by going down to the lines or in the warehouses or even in the trucks to see how people use the technology and to see what they were doing to hack around how we were telling them to use it so we could get the true voice of our user, the man or the woman with a shovel in their hand, we like to call it, to tell us how things should work for them. Because if they work well for them, they're going to be more productive. They're going to be happier, and the company's going to have more throughput.
So getting their buy-in and getting them to buy into taking ownership over the new technology.
Yeah, and listening too. I mean, that's the thing that gets missed a lot. This isn't from up high or some ivory tower somewhere. We want to be down on the floor with you to see how you do things and learn and identify how to make your life better and your job better so you're happy here.
So what's your biggest challenges today overseeing IT operations within your organization?
I would say there's three main challenges. One is the advent or the adoption and the availability of new technology is at the highest level ever, right? Our technology is changing more and more. There's more new technology out on the market each and every day, and it's very difficult to keep up with what's new and discern exactly what new we should bring in. The second challenge we have is obviously a cybersecurity challenge, and it's a challenge that all businesses and all people face because cybersecurity hackers are getting more sophisticated. We have to spend a lot of time and money protecting our entity from having our keys to the castle stolen or our business interrupted. The third challenge that we have is with adoption. Human beings don't like to change. We got to convince human beings that there's something in it for them if we choose to pivot with our technology, and that's something that we want to do as a company and want them to own and be a part of.
That's awesome. So cybersecurity, I mean, those are the two big ones: AI and cybersecurity.
Yep.
And I'm looking to do a symposium here at the end of this year, and we're looking around at different things to talk about. And it's like, for leaders like yourself, it comes down to budget, AI, and cybersecurity is really what I'm hearing from everybody.
Yep.
How hard is it to keep up with these hackers with cybersecurity within a company like Cambria? I mean, is it just an ongoing, everyday struggle?
Ongoing, everyday struggle. 90% of hacks are human error, and most are unintentional, right? The biggest part of our cybersecurity objectives that we focus on is education, making sure our users know and understand how not to be social engineered, how not to be tricked to let someone in the building or to give their password or to click on a link that they shouldn't click on. That's a main focus of what we do with our cybersecurity programs today.
So it's not so much criminals on the outside; it's unknown folks accidentally hacking in.
Yeah, or criminals identifying weaknesses in our infrastructure, including people that they can trick to do something wrong. I mean, that's I think MGM just had a hack here recently, and it was social engineering of someone inside that a criminal exploited.
Yeah, it was through like a staffing company. I own an IT staffing company, and we work with MGM. So I was like, oh God, hope that wasn't us.
Yeah.
And thank God it wasn't.
Yeah. It's scary.
So, for someone who's listening today who is aspiring to be in a leadership role in technology, and that's most of the people who listen to our podcast and watch our podcast, what are some of the pitfalls that you've experienced over the years that maybe we can talk about to help them avoid when, making this trip on up the company, the corporate ladder to a leadership role?
Absolutely. I think it's the pitfall is don't get just put in a technology box or be viewed as a technologist. Make sure you're leading with that business minded approach and make sure that you're networking significantly and you've got, you're building strong relationships with other departments in an organization and just in the market so that you have the opportunity to practice presenting yourself and your ability and then also to make great relationships with people. I rely on my network heavily to answer questions about things and contribute things and do things for the common good. And I think that's critically important. And in fact, we have an internship program here that we do at Cambria every summer, and our interns get exposure to each of our executive leaders, and most of us, when we present, talk about the importance of networking and being open to being the expert in your discipline, but knowing about and relating to the other disciplines. So as a leader, you can project as a subject matter expert and someone that business leaders can trust to deliver as you're part of the team.
That's such great advice. I've been in IT staffing, recruiting, headhunting, whatever you want to call it, for the last 27 years, right? And that's whenever people reach out to me and go, "Hey, I'm looking for a new job. What should I do?" I was turn to your network. Mm-hmm. 100 different people who are connected to 1,000 different people. So your network of people that is so much larger than you think it is. If you just ask the people that because there's nothing that people like better than helping people they like.
Yep.
It makes them feel good and they know that they're doing something good for somebody else. I'm like, just reach out to your network. I said, you can send out as many resumes as you want to off of LinkedIn or Dice or Monster or whatever. They're going into a black hole. What you want to do is talk to the people and get in touch with that network, their network. Find a job where you want to work at X company. Find out in your network who is connected to X company. There's your way into X company. That's the way to do it. So just such great advice. I mean, this podcast that I've done with, over 50 people now is another way of networking.
For sure.
And then you get connected to every person I know and vice versa. And it's just like all of a sudden we're talking to millions of people, or millions of people are following us and watching or listening to this. I mean, it's just another form of networking. Great. So I love that advice.
Yeah.
So we're going to finish it up here with a question that I'm going to ask. We know where the hell you've been. We know what the hell you've done. Now tell us, where the hell you going?
Where the hell am I going? Well, like I said, I've never been more excited and more scared as a technology leader and a business leader in my life. I mean, I've been in startup scenarios where we weren't sure how we were going to make payroll. And that wasn't as scary as it is now. And it's simply because things are changing so rapidly, and staying in front of how we can use technology in order to enhance the profitability and success of the business is critical. So I feel that staying focused on what we can do to improve technology, deliver improved process, and supply data visibility to companies with this new technology is very exciting. It's scary because it's so new. It's scary because there's bad actors in cybersecurity that have access to the same technology. So it's something that we have to be consistently aware of. When I was 43 years old, I finally decided what I wanted to be when I grew up. I read this book that suggested you should write down what you're passionate about and then have that be your charter for the rest of your life. So at 43, I did that. I wrote down, I'm passionate about supplying technology, improved processes, and data visibility to companies that allow them to achieve scalable growth. And I really strongly believe in that. And that's where I'm going. I decided at 43, that's where I was going. I'm 51 now, like you. I'm going to keep heading in that direction. I'm going to do that here at Cambria in order to make this company more successful and grow. And I think beyond just the company, I want people to have the opportunity to employ their critical thinking skills. And I think it's very, very important that the human race has the opportunity to employ our critical thinking skills. So as technologies like AI come about, we can use them as co-pilots and not replacements. So they're complementing what we're doing. They're taking away those tasks that are dull, dirty, dangerous, or difficult, and automating them away, freeing us up to use our critical thinking skills at a capacity that's more fulfilling for us as people.
God, I love it. Let's go back to when you were 43.
Mm-hmm.
What was that book?
It was Pete Carroll's book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think it's called All In or I'm In or something like that.
It's just amazing what putting pen to paper and writing down your thoughts and your goals, what that does to the human psyche.
Yep.
I mean, it's just for anybody who's watching or listening right now, take the advice of what Ben just talked about, what he learned from Pete Carroll's book, put pen to paper, write down your goals, and just watch the magic happen after you do that. So, Ben, I can't thank you enough. It's been a great podcast. Can't wait to have some people give feedback like they do for every podcast. But I want to wish you the best of luck moving forward, and we'll stay in touch.
Well, thank you, John. I really enjoyed our conversation today, and look forward to hearing how this is received.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in to the How in the Hell Did We Get Here podcast, and we'll see you next week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in.
The How in the Hell Did We Get Here podcast is brought to you by IT Avalon. For more information and links to other episodes, please visit johnzinkpodcast.com. We'll see you next time on How in the Hell Did We Get Here?
The future's right now.